So there is a thought about an alternate universe, um, and just really gets into physics and
Quantum physics, really?
quantum physics.
Mm.
What I really thought about was the whole idea when we watch Interstellar, and I know that you aren't really a fan of that movie,
I thought it was. I mean, it was entertaining.
but I found it very, very fascinating. Just all of the layers of the Matthew McConaughey character, and then at the end when you look at it and you see like the book falling off the shelf, and it was actually him pushing the book off of
That's
the
right.
shelf,
Yeah.
and you're like, oh my God, that was him in that dimension. I, it really just got me thinking about a lot of things, and
It's
so
that whole idea of the space time
the continuum
kind of being not linear. Yeah.
and not linear, and so it brought me to thinking about our lives and what where we were in different points in our lives before we met each other. And that might not be the same thing as quantum physics, I'll give you that. However, it always fascinates me to wonder, okay, so what was Lex doing in this year and what I was doing in this year
Before we even knew each other. Yeah.
before any of that. And then how did that bring us together?
Like following the chain of custody, as it were, or
And then
like the train of consciousness, or yeah.
right.
I know what you mean, kind of. Yeah.
Right. And then are we together on these different planes if you go with that theory of there's alternate realities on several different planes? Are we living together on these different universes?
You mean is our
Have we
reality
met?
still together as a
Us.
couple? Yeah, as us.
Or would we say that
Are we just
have,
individual?
yeah,
Yeah.
individual, or are we with different people on these parallel? I think some movie was made about that.
I'm sure several movies have been made about that, but I like your train of thought, though. I can follow you with that. How will we even know, though, what the answer is?
Well,
I mean, because I think a lot of it is just like theory, right? It's like there's nothing that you could prove one way or another.
well, there's this obsession with proving something to be, true or disproving it, or making it true or making it false, and it really becomes, for me, it's like how important is that? Because sometimes there is no proof, which then goes into a whole nother sect of not necessarily reality, because you have no proof of it. And what we've established as reality is having proof of something, right? You have to come with this is the definitive thing that
This
I
is
can
what
prove.
makes it real.
This
right?
is what makes it real.
Like a statement of fact.
A statement
Yeah.
of fact. And I guess at the end of the day, you wonder, do you really need that? I mean, and I guess that goes into a whole nother realm of, you talk about,
Well, it's like, can you know things to be true without having,
proof.
what we consider to be proof?
And I'd almost say air quotes proof.
In air quotes. The so-called proof.
I do wonder about this,
in the so-called pudding.
Right. I mean, I wonder about this. And, just because you can put 2 plus 2 is 4. But, I mean, do we really know 2 plus 2 is 4?
Well,
That's what
we
people
call it
tell
that.
us is 2 plus 2 is
We
4.
all sort of agree that that is a truth.
But what is 2? What is the definition of 2? I don't. I mean, it's a number. We've all agreed. And I guess that's the other thing too. As a society, or as this construct that we have, we've decided that those numbers added together equal 4. But what if we decided one day that wasn't the case?
So much of it is really based on an agreed upon consensual, sort of agreed upon construct.
Right, that construct.
That is limiting but also manageable.
And I guess at some point, you have to have rules for things, right? You have to say, well, this is what we've said that we're all the rules that we're going to play by, and people either play by them or they don't, and I guess that's what builds the construct, right?
And then there's the scientists and the theologians and the physicists and people that have inspiration and that kind of think outside the box and sort of stretch the boundaries of the agreed upon construct. Like the idea of quantum physics and the idea of a nonlinear time and space and alternate realities, alternate planes, alternate coexisting in what we call time and space. And that's kind of cool but I think that a lot of times those people are not necessarily easy to understand or to follow, It's kind of mind bending stuff, but
well, and I think that just by definition of saying that, you're talking about things that are kind of outside of the construct, or
right.
these agreed upon boundaries. It's kind of defies the whole concept.
It stretches the imagination. It stretches the ideas, and I think that we have to recognize too that so many things that we perceive and call reality now, we had no idea existed 100 years ago, 1,000 years ago, and now it's like, oh yeah, of course, there's atoms, there's protons, there's neutrons, there's all of these things that we can say exist, that we believe exist, that we can prove in a microscope exist. And what's to say that there's not a million other things just right on the brink that we can't prove yet? But in 100 years, it'll be like, oh yeah.
And there's back to that thing of the proof. And so I say about that proof, what's interesting is that I think that's what always comes up with the idea, or the conflict sometimes, with proof and faith.
Yeah.
And which one, sometimes there's a competition.
It's like, which one wins?
Right.
Yeah. Science and faith, or, yeah. People think that they have to be mutually exclusive sometimes.
But they don't necessarily need to be. But sometimes people think that they do need to be.
It seems kind of small, though. I mean, it seems sort of limited, you know, to think that you have to pick between those two things as if they are mutually exclusive.
When you have a buffet,
Yes.
when you have the
Possibility,
the
the potential. I
possibility
mean,
of everything
yep, the potential is like beyond words, really.
in your parallel universes.
Yeah, I like that. I like to think of things that make me feel like my mind is bigger, you know, instead of like, oh, limiting me to like an either or. A box. Proof. Whatever that means.